So, good evening, students. So, how many of you are here? So, just a second, I will check the stream. Uh, no, I am just asking how many of you are present. So, let's other connect. Let's wait for 5 minutes and then we'll start. Because right now it is showing that only 4 or 5 are connected, hardly. Okay, let's. How is the quality of stream? Today we will complete virtual functions, and then we will see timing diagram in your computer organization and architecture. Settings, just a second. Actually, I had to reset my laptop, so some settings also changed actually. So I'll reduce the bit rate. So just see now. Has the stream quality improved a bit? Oh, just a second, I forgot to switch off the fan. Okay, slight, if it is, okay, then I will reduce. Just a second, then I will reduce it more. I'll make it to say 800 or 700, I'll make it. So, yes, Opratim, what is a pointer? What is a pointer? Yes, what is a pointer, Opratim? Okay, we will discuss about the contents of the test later on, but let's just complete this thing first. Yes, it holds the address of other variables, so there is nothing new here. I hope all of you know what is it. So what problem are you exactly having? No, Unmilan, I think you are wrong that it is not some kind of key, it is basically a variable only. Or you can say this is a data type form of. So what does your pointer contain? It actually points to the address of a particular variable. So I don't think there is anything to explain here, or what specific doubt are you having? If you now ask me, sir, I don't understand what is a pointer. So you have to be specific. If you ask me, sir, I don't know what is a pointer, or I have not understood what a pointer is, then I cannot go and explain it from C. Okay, I cannot now go on explaining the concepts of your C programming language, and then I come here and then I can go. So just be specific what you did not understand. See, in this case, what we are actually trying to do is we are creating pointers to point to objects, right? Basically, we have seen how we can do it with your other forms of data type, but we were to an extent asking how we can, or is it implementable in your C++ to point to objects. So we have seen that only. So can anyone explain to Aprotim what is the function of pointer? Oh, sorry, you are asking about this pointer. So this pointer is a type of pointer which will point to the object which is being invoked. Okay, say if the object is trying to invoke a function. So I hope all of you know that every class has got a member function, or it has some member functions or some kind such kind of variable. Now if a particular object is trying to invoke a particular member function, then the content of this pointer will refer to that object, means it is pointing to the object which is invoking it. Okay, so you have to keep this in mind. So even if you are writing say a dot some value, okay, means what? By default means the compiler will now set the address of this to the object which is calling the, or which is getting executed. Okay, so this pointer will always point to the object which is being invoked. Okay, so up till now we have done this only. We have used possible to use pointers for class objects. Yes, we have in the last class we actually saw such kind of example, right, where we used pointers to point to derived class objects and base class objects, right? So in this part if you see, or up to the section where we finished in the last class, you might see that we had actually seen some examples where we were using the same pointer to point to both derived class objects as well as base class objects. Now there was some form of drawback there. What was the drawback? Can you tell if you remember? We were going through this kind of examples, right? Where we actually have, okay, this is something else. We'll just go to this part. pointers to derived classes. So we were discussing about how pointers can be used to point to objects. Is it clear? Array to store functions, or is it possible? So where did you find such kind of examples? You can store, used an array to store function. So I don't think they will use array to store function. They will use array of pointers to store the address of those functions. They won't be able to store functions in an array anyway. So see, do not try to divert too much from the topic. Read the PDF that is given or that is available with you. Okay, what can be done, what cannot be done, that is there. Okay, what can be done, what cannot be done, it is always there. There is no limitation in programming. Okay, so if you follow the rules, you can do any sort of things. But what is important is you have to understand the basic concepts and basic ideas which are required for you. Okay, so these are just some kind of you can say skills basically that you have to know. It is always, there is no end to like variation in a program. There can be n number of variations for a particular program, so there is no limit to it. But what is important is you understand the concept, what is or what I am trying to tell. So just try to follow that concept first properly, because these are some fundamental concepts. Later on you can develop n number of things based on these concepts. There is no limitation. Okay, so let's try to recap the last class. So in the last class we were discussing these pointers to derived classes, right? So what we saw there, we can use a base class pointer to point to a derived class object. So this is the example here. So if you see here, bptr is equal to n%. So if you see here, we have created a base class pointer bc star bptr. So your bptr is basically the pointer variable. After this, what you have done, you have assigned this bptr to the address of base. You have created an object base of class bc. Okay. After this, you had assigned some value to the member, data member, whatever was present there, and we were calling the member functions. After this, what you did, you again assigned bptr to the address of this derived class object. So your derived is an object of class dc. So you and if you see here, dc is getting inherited from bc. Okay, so you had assigned this particular thing. So after this, we found a problem. So what was the problem? Can you remember? There was a disadvantage while using this particular scheme. So after you had assigned it, what you did was you were calling the member function of the derived class. Now there was a slight change here. What was the change? That both the base class and derived class were having a member function named as show. So show was present in both. If you see the example, show was present in both class bc as well as dc. It was there. Now whenever you are using a base class pointer and you are then assigning it to the address of the derived object, what used to happen whenever you invoked this show function, it was calling the base class member function. Okay. Alternatively, what we did was we created a derived class pointer, and we then when we call the show function, then only it used to call the show function of the derived class. So if you try to relate it, you have got say two classes. One is your base class, other is your derived class. So both the classes are having a sir, a person told me that the examples in Balaguru Swami book are difficult to understand. So, are you finding it difficult to understand? Because I am taking it up for from that book only. See, as a student, your concern should be about yourself, not about other persons. What others are telling or what others are not. Please don't give such sort of comments. It really disturbs the flow of the class. So, the program, whatever is given here, were you able to understand it or not? You just tell me this. I am not concerned about other persons. So if other persons are not understanding, ask them to get in touch with me if they are my students, provided. What I am concerned is whether you are understanding or not. What other persons are understanding or not understanding, it is not my concern. Yes, if they are my students, yes, they can ask me 100 times. I don't mind that. But please don't give such kind of comments here. So here what you did, you had got two classes. One was your base class, other was your derived class. So both of them were having this show function. Okay. Now then what you did, you created a pointer for base class, right? And then we saw if we are creating a base class of, or say basically a pointer of type base class, we can use the same pointer to point to the derived class. Okay, we can do it, but yeah. So sorry for the disturbance. Mimi, yeah. So we can use the same base class pointer to point to both the objects of base class as well as the derived class objects. But there was a problem. If they were having the same function name, at that time when you are calling the say derived class member function, the base class member function was getting invoked. So to solve this, next comes your virtual functions. So is the context clear where from these virtual functions are getting developed? So what happens in your virtual functions? So virtual functions are used to implement polymorphism, or your run you know it as your runtime polymorphism. Now what actually happens in your virtual function? Now, so if you see, an essential requirement of polymorphism is therefore the ability to refer to objects without any regard to their classes. So if you see the previous example, both the classes were having the same function name, but is there any way possible to discriminate between the functions from base class and derived class? So if it is possible, at that time you can say that we are implementing polymorphism. Why? Because the functions are having the same name, but based on the context of the program, their usage will be different, or different functions will be called. Okay, so a, an essential requirement of polymorphism is therefore the ability to refer to objects without any regard to their classes. This necessitates the use of a single pointer variable to refer to the objects of different classes. Okay, here we use the pointer to base class to refer to all the derived class objects, but we discovered that a base pointer, even when it is made to contain the address of a derived class, always executes the function in the base class. So the problem is very clear what happens. So the compiler simply ignores the contents of the pointer and chooses the member function that matches the type of the pointer. So how do we achieve polymorphism? It is achieved with something known as virtual functions. Okay, so what happens here, when we use the same function name in both the base and derived class, the function in base class is declared as virtual using the keyword virtual preceding its normal declaration. So to make a function as a virtual function, what you do, you just add virtual in front of the function declaration that you have got. So if you see this example, so let us try to analyze this particular example. So hash include iostream, you have got using namespace std, then you have got something known class base you are declaring. So void display virtual void show. So you have created two member function, one is your display, other is your show. So what you are doing now, you are adding this keyword virtual in front of this show to make it as a virtual function. Next, class derived, so public base. So what happens here, void display, you are, if you see here, although you are declaring the same function, but you are again redefining them in the derived classes. Okay, so you are again redefining the member functions. So now let's see here what happens. Base b, you have created an object b of class base. D, you have created an object of class derived. Then base star bptr means you have created a base point, or basically a pointer variable to point to the objects of this particular class, which is my base class. Next, bptr is equal to n%b. Now you have assigned the address of bptr as object b. You are next calling bptr show, sorry, display, and then bptr show. So this particular statements will actually invoke the member functions from the base class. Okay, after this what you are doing, you are using the same pointer variable to store the address of the derived class object. Okay, and now if you call this bptr display, this display function and show function, what happens, display is, because you have not defined it as virtual function, will actually call the base class function, whereas show will actually call the derived class function. So you can see, with the help of a single pointer variable, we can now, or we are now able to access the member functions, or the member functions which are having the same name in both base class as well as derived class. Okay, but if you are not defining it as a virtual function, what will happen, only the base class version of the function will be called, means it will be overridden. Okay, so this is the usage of your virtual function. Sir, why are we using the dereferencing operator instead of the dot operator? So I think I had covered this thing in the previous class. You can use the dot operator also, but at that time what is going to happen, you can use it, there is no problem. So if you see this particular part, it is explicitly given here that you have to use some parentheses or such kind of thing. So you can use this same thing, no issues, but you have to use parentheses. So is this example clear? Any doubts? Why are you using this, or why are we defining a particular member function as virtual, or in what cases basically? So you can take this scenario, say uh, you have got a an inheritance. So video, if the video is not streaming properly, so what I can do, I can say reduce the bitrate mode, or you can also watch it later if you feel like there is some problem with the video. So next, what do we have? So basically the context here is, if your base class sorry, if there is a base class and derived class, and if you want to use the same function name for say implementing a particular functionality of that class, at that time you have to use this virtual function. Okay, so here I think they have given this particular example, you can see it. So media book tape. So this is a simple example to implement this particular runtime polymorphism. Okay, so next we'll see something known as rules for virtual functions. So what all, or in which circumstances these virtual functions are permitted, we can see it. So the virtual functions must be member of some class. Okay, they cannot be static members, they are accessed by using object pointers. So I hope we have seen this particular functionality where we are using object pointers to point to the virtual functions. Okay, a virtual function can be friend of another class. A virtual function is a base class, sorry, in a base class must be defined even though it may not be used. So say based on your order of say execution, if the virtual, sorry, if you want to use the same, say I have got a display function which I want to use in all my derived classes. So even though I may not define it in the base class, but it should be declared, okay, as virtual function, or else the compiler will generate error. So this has to be there. Next, the prototype of base class version of virtual function and all derived class version must be identical. If two functions with the same name have different prototypes, C++ considers them as overloaded function and the virtual function mechanism is ignored. Okay, so are these points clear? Any doubts? Any doubts here? So we cannot have virtual constructors, but we can have virtual destructors. See, sometimes I have checked the stream. I think it is to an extent okay today, and it is also showing healthy status. So I don't see any problem here. See, if you are facing problems like it is lagging too much, at that time what you can do, you can watch it later also. There is no requirement. Okay. If you are not understanding, you will get the contents, I think. So while base pointer can point to any type of derived object, the reverse is not true. I hope this is clear that you can use a base class pointer to point to derived classes, but you cannot use a derived class pointer to point to base classes. Okay. So when a base pointer points to derived class, incrementing or decrementing it will not make it to point to the next object of the derived class. So I hope this should be clear, because derived class objects will be assigned to some other memory locations. Okay. So if a virtual function is defined in base class, it need not necessarily redefine in the derived class. Okay. So next we have got something known as pure virtual functions. So pure virtual functions are also sometimes known as do nothing functions. Okay. The function inside the base class. Okay. It is a normal practice to declare a function virtual inside the base class and redefine it in the derived classes. The functions inside the base class is seldom used for performing any task. It only serves as placeholder. So those functions which you are, say, wishing or desiring to use it in some derived classes, and you have only defined it in the base class to just say store the definition. So these will be called as pure virtual functions or do nothing functions. You are not going to declare it or say define it in the base class. You will subsequently use it. So only for storing the place, or these are also used to store the placeholder, or sorry, to serve as placeholders, so that it can be defined later on. Okay. So this is your pure virtual function. So pure virtual function, you can get the implementation in the previous example. So if you see here, they have given this virtual void display. So this might be your pure virtual function here. Okay. So please go through it once, and for today we have got one more exercise. So today I will be taking the attendance. So those of you who are present, please fill the attendance within 10 minutes. So I'll share it in the chat. I'm sharing it in the chat. You can fill it. So this is the link. So just fill it. It will be active only for say 10 minutes. And then I am going to close it. So this is for taking your attendance. So please, those who are present, please fill it. So is the topic clear? Pure virtual function, virtual function. Yes, this is for OOP basically. So is this clear? Virtual function, why or in which context we are using virtual functions? So now if you see with the, or you might ask, how does polymorphism justify here? Here you are using the same pointer variable to refer to two functions from two different classes. Okay, so you can say that we are actually implementing polymorphism here. So the functions are hierarchical in nature, means one function is from the base class, other is from the derived class. Okay, so is it okay? Yes, so one more thing, please fill it one time only. Please fill the link once, because some of you are giving it two times. So even if you are giving it two times, it will be counted as one only. Okay, fill it only once. Okay, so those of you who are present, have you filled it? Anyone else who is left? So next we will start with timing diagram. Okay, so have you done timing diagrams in your digital logic? So what does it refer to, Manish? Timing diagram? We plot different time set with 0 and 1. No sir, analog to digital. See, basically, in terms of computer logic, or say computer electronics or whatever is there, what does this refer to? This refers to the state through which the device is going to go. Okay, so based on the context, it is used differently for different cases. So basically, what does it mean with respect to time? How will the contents of the device or a, say particular circuit, how is it going to change? So it reflects that. So now, in terms of our computer organization and architecture, what we want to see is how are the contents going to change whenever we are executing a instruction. Okay, so timing diagram with respect to your computer architecture. Too much network issue this time, sir. Please consider another time. Sorry, sir. So if the stream is not working properly, so I think, so is it okay now? So computer architecture with respect to, sorry, timing diagram with respect to your computer architecture, what does it refer to? Timing diagram is a graphical representation. It represents the execution time taken by each instruction in a graphical moment. The execution time is represented in T states. Okay, so T state means what? T here represents the time required for a single machine cycle. Okay, so you can see here T state definition is given below. The machine cycle and instruction cycle takes multiple clock periods. So a portion of an operation carried out in one system clock period is called as T state. Okay, so basically it represents one period of the clock. Okay, so you might have say three states to carry out a operation. So it might so you can call it say T3 state or T5 state and so on. So we'll see these terminologies later on, don't get confused. What is an instruction cycle? The time required to execute an instruction. And next what we have got, machine cycle, the time required to access the memory or input output device. So we have got two things here, one is your instruction cycle, other is your machine cycle. Instruction cycle, what does it tell us? It is the time. See, I have shared the content in your Google Classroom. Okay, you will find it there, it is not there in that book. So please check it in the Google Classroom for Koa. Instruction cycle, it is the time required to execute an instruction, whereas machine cycle, what does it represent? The time required to access the memory or input output devices. Okay, so if it is buffering, let's wait for some time. अच्छा ये रहा. So we will continue this say we'll just see the basics and then we'll continue it in the next class. You upload the topic in the drive. Yes, it is. Which topic do you want? It is there in the Google Drive. Sorry. So if buffering is an issue here, so I think we should select some other time slot. Okay, then we will continue in the next class. Say tomorrow morning might be at say around 8 to 8:30. Okay, then we can try this. Tomorrow morning we'll see it again. Okay, we'll continue this thing from tomorrow morning. Okay, so now as many of you are complaining that you are having this network issue, so tomorrow at roughly around 8 we'll start. Okay. Okay, I will give the okay, we will meet tomorrow morning. Okay, I will check it. Thank you for listening, and please read the topics which have been covered.